from Spain, saying that that which has reached us from their work on numbers is Hisab al-Gubar, means dustboard arithmetic. Because what Indians did was they took a tablet, means a flat surface, dropped some dust or wood dust, and then write numbers. And that's how mathematics was done in the olden times, because paper was not available. Europeans as well as Arabs, they learned paper much later. So that was their only way to do mathematical calculation. So they were using animal skin. That was the only way to write books. That's the reason if you go to Europe, you are not going to find books that were written before 13th century, because it was so difficult. It was in 13th and 14th century they learned how to make paper, and most of the books were written after that. This is coming from Leonardo Fibonacci, an Italian who is considered to be the father of mathematics today. Now remember, if you go to any mathematics department all over the world, there will be a Fibonacci society. He is that famous. So when he is saying it, that the art of the 9 figures, the introduction and knowledge of the art pleased me so much above all else, and I learned from them, whoever was learned in it, from nearby Egypt, Syria, Greece, Sicily, and Provence, and their various methods. Therefore, strictly embracing the Indian method and the attentive to the study of it from my own sense, and adding some and some more from the Euclidean geometric art, applying the sum that I have been able to perceive this book. He wrote a book called Liber Abbasi. He is very open that he is learning it from India. Guess what happened? He wrote maybe some 5-6 books. His most famous book, Liber Abbasi, that's where he wrote that in the very first page of that book. That book was very first time translated into English in 2002. A person who's considered to be a father of mathematics, his most important book was translated only just 10, 15 years ago. That's the situation. How much time do I have? I think maybe just 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. So I'm going to move quickly. Geometry, I'm pretty sure, people know about these symbols that we have been making it. And, we have been making it from the ancient period. So all these triangles and squares and circles, they were so important for us that we decided to write books about it. And that's how Shulba Sutras were written in the ancient period, and their purpose was to construct geometrical designs, but the main purpose was to make fire altars. And they had all sort of, some very specific shapes. And we thought that geometry is the way to achieve God, and therefore those fire altars were designed in so many ways. And I know I should move quickly here. So we knew if we take square of number and keep doing it for n numbers, how to add those. We knew cube of a number, keep adding it, how much will be? This is all in 5th century by Aryabhata. And the most interesting thing is, he has written in his book that I'm not the creator of this knowledge. This is an ancient knowledge. Because it is dying, therefore I'm writing this book. So all this thing was an ancient knowledge that was dying in 5th century, when many cultures were in dark ages. Value of pi, most interesting thing is, he said, it's an approximate value because you can never calculate the exact value. He knew that. I have to tell you this story. How many of you have taken a course in trigonometry? Quite a few. Good. So I have to tell you that story. Sine theta. Why do we call sine? Somebody must have chosen that word. Because the history of science or the history of mathematics is the history of human beings. So who chose that word? Well, today you will know it because I have picked up quite a few trigonometry books. It is not shared. In India, it's called Jaya. Aryabhata, he used that term, and he used the term Jaya. When he taught it to Arabs, they decided to choose a word that is very similar to Jaya, and that word happened to be Jade. And I'm pretty sure those who know a little bit of Hindi, they know that jade in Arabic means pocket in your trouser. That's what jade is. I'm pretty sure some of you know Hindi, and because it's commonly used in Hindi language for pocket, jade. When European learned it in Latin, the word for pocket is sinus. Sinus means pocket. So every time, and then later on we decided to shorten it. We decided to say, call it sign, S-I-N. But that becomes sin. That's not a good pronunciation. So we decided to start calling it sign. So every time you are calling it sine theta, you are basically saying pocket theta. It just does not make sense, and we have been doing it for 300 years. And we consider ourselves to be progressive as a scientist. Let me share about this heliocentric, and I will be very brief because I know I have taken a lot of your time. This is written in Aryabhata's book. As a man in a boat going forward sees a stationary object moving backward, just so in Sri Lanka, a man sees the stationary stars moving backward exactly toward the west. So basically he's saying Earth is moving, and because Earth is moving, that's the reason we see stars are moving. Why Sri Lanka? Was he from Sri Lanka? No, he was not. But he knew in Indian continent that was the closest point to the equator. In other places, it will not move exactly to the west. That's the reason. So, clearly, there is no confusion about it. He assigned motion to the earth. And now the issue is, maybe you can say, oh, he just assigned the axial motion, but not the revolution, orbital motion. Well, to make a story short, because I can go on and on that, in a geocentric system, the cycle, orbital period of Mercury and Venus should be equal to 1 year. Because those are inner planets and they are moving around the sun, and from here you are looking at the sun and those planets are moving. So their orbital period should be equal to 1 year. But Aryabhata, when he measured Mercury and Venus, his orbital period was exactly what it should be in a heliocentric system. Now, maybe if you are still not convinced, I have to give you more evidence. In 11th century, when Mahmud Ghazni came to India and captured India, he brought a philosopher with him, Al-Biruni, and he criticized Indian for assigning motion to the earth. So that's another evidence that Indians considered that earth was moving, because Al-Biruni is saying, how stupid are those Indians? Because he used that language. I'm sure today you know who has the last laugh. Now, New York Academy of Science has published a book where they have accepted it. This is another book recently came, some 25 years ago, 20 years ago came out, where now it is accepted fact. However, you will not see it in an astronomy textbook. He knew about gravity. I'm going to skip quite a few things, and please pardon me. Now, concept of atom. Karl Marx, he said, Democritus, who is given credit for the concept of atom, learned it from the gymnophist in India. I hope if the left in India can read Karl Marx carefully. They all have his book, but they don't read it. This is in his PhD thesis. He did write a PhD thesis on the concept of atom. I'm pretty sure you know about this, so I'm going to skip it. And I want to come back to the last topic. So just a few minutes. 2 years ago, Dr. Harshvardhan, Minister of Science and Technology, wrote, "Oh, Indians knew Pythagorean theorem," and the whole world fell apart. Because in India, practically every single newspaper started criticizing him. There were ridicules all over the world, including America, including India abroad, and so on. So, let me tell you, he was not so wrong. I'm skipping a few things, and I would be happy to share these slides with anybody who wants it. This is coming from Voltaire in France. That Pythagoras the gymnophist may alone serve an incontestable proof that the true science was cultivated in India. It is even more probable that Pythagoras learned the properties of the right angle triangle from the Indians. It is written in Western literature. Now you can say, oh, maybe it's 18th century. By that time, we didn't know what happened. Well, let's go to the 1st century. This is Apollonius, who was a Pythagorean philosopher who studied Pythagorean philosophy. He was so popular that many considered him as a god. He was a rival of Jesus the Christ at one time because he was from the same period. And he writes, "I do not touch blood even on the altar since that was the doctrines of Pythagoras, it was the doctrine of the naked philosopher of Egypt and the wise man of India, from whom Pythagoras and his sect derived the seed of his philosophy. Now, I decided there is a controversy. India Abroad has written an article about it. They even decided to interview a Western historian who said it's all rubbish. So I decided to send everything. By the way, I have quite a few more such quotations. And I said to India Abroad, you have already written articles, long articles. Will you allow us to present the point of view of this person, the Minister of Science and Technology? And they said, no. Only thing you can do is write a short letter. So I did that, and it was published in, now, as I mentioned, it's a lonely word for scientists. So let me share, what people have talked about. This is a library journal. It's a journal. Its job is to inform library if they should buy a book or not. According to them, Kumar succeeds in his ambitious undertaking to link Hindu religion, culture, and history to significant scientific achievements. Recommended to academic libraries acquiring the material on multiculturalism and science. So I was very pleased because it's a very prestigious journal. Now, second thing, I received an email from the President of Mauritius. I mean, I'm a lonely man. Why the President of a country should contact me? So when he contacted me, I wrote him back. I said, prove it to me that you are the President, then I'll talk with you. Because I simply could not believe that the President of a country will be interested in my book and wants to read it and wants his signed copy. So then I get an email. This is my phone number. This is my address. This is the address of the Embassy of Mauritius, in Washington, D.C. And make a phone call anytime you want to. You can talk with me. Then I realized I'm talking to the real man. And then he wrote me a very, very nice letter, which is quite personal but quite nice also, where he's saying, I am no man of science, still less of physics, but I find the chapters on astronomy, physics, chemistry, and the benefits of yoga highly appealing and mind-boggling. We should congratulate people of Indian origin like you, who in spite of being exposed to modern civilization, are still deeply and proudly connected to the great ancient Hindu civilization. It is a very long letter, so I could not put it here. There are magazines that interviewed me, so I have shared those. I was surprised to see my picture on the title page. This is from New York City. The Press Trust of India, by the way, that's a very interesting story. Press Trust of India, the main person in Washington is Lalit Jha. He interviewed me for about 6 months. And after 6 months, he wrote a story that he said there will be at least 600 newspapers that will cover. And he wrote a very long one. And it ended up only in Z News and the Hindu. They published it. All the other major newspapers rejected it. And the secondary newspaper, the small markets, they did cover. Reuters wrote a story. In fact, this is the title of that story. It's a coincidence that the day I gave my lecture in New Jersey in a conference, on the same day, Modi came to San Francisco. So they decided to mix these two into a single story. But again, the credit is not to me because on that dais, we had Manjul Bhargava, who has received Fields Medal, the highest honor in mathematics. So these are some of the things. Are we close to the Needham movement, which is, Needham was a person from England who loved China, and he went to China, convinced Mao and Zhou Enlai, and they gave unlimited amount of money to Needham. Such a thing has not happened in India, so I think we are closer than ever before to Needham movement, but we are not there as yet. So I'm going to stop. I think you have suffered enough for the day. If you have any question, I would be happy to answer your question. Thank you so much for your patient listening. I really appreciate it.
Do we have questions in the audience? Okay, what we will do is, in the interest of time, maybe you will be around after this, and thank you incidentally for that wonderful talk. I think we were only able to cover a small fraction of all the material you wanted to cover. The rest of it is in the book, so I would really encourage those of you interested in this, and I'm sure all of you are, to look at that book, to purchase it outside, and while Professor Kumar is here, you can even get it signed by him. I would like to take a few minutes to talk to you about the Sri Vidya Temple Society and some updates from that front. Especially for those of you who have not maybe been connected. And after that, we will have some time with Professor Kumar, and we'll also have some light refreshments. So actually, this is a